Imagine a world without J.K. Rowling. Like, Harry Potter's still a thing, but let's just say Daniel Radcliffe wrote Harry Potter. He spends all day tweeting, "I love and support my fans, regardless of their gender or identity." And the fans respond, "Daniel, we love how you made Dumbledore gay by actually showing it in an overt but tasteful way." And he replies, "No problem. It's what I do." Now that we got that out of the way, we're not really going to talk about J.K. Rowling that much. The person we're more mad at is a guy named David Yates. Yates is the current director of all movies in the Potter franchise, starting with Order of the Phoenix. In fact, the franchise has had 4 different directors over the course of its run. Chris Columbus did the first 2, Alfonso Cuarón did 3, Mike Newell did 4, and Yates did the rest, including the Fantastic Beasts films. Now, if I hadn't specified which ones had the change in direction, you might have been able to figure it out yourself. The biggest problem I have with this franchise is the inconsistent tone. The movies flip-flop from family fantasy to gothic horror to rom-com, and it's easy to blame the constant change in directors. But it really didn't have to be this way. Compare it to something like the Marvel movies, another decade-long franchise with several directors. Despite that, the Marvel films still feel recognizable as part of the same universe. The tone is consistent, and the movies feel naturally connected. This is because the crew worked together to make sure things stay the way they needed, whereas each Potter director came in with an attitude of, "This is my franchise now, fuck that last guy." So the problem isn't just the change, it's that each director wanted to make the series their own rather than stay consistent with their predecessor. This, combined with a certain actor replacement that in no way divided fans at all, made for a series that just felt disjointed. Watching the finale or certain character deaths didn't really mean as much, because I didn't feel like I was watching the same characters we started with. So to see their arcs conclude doesn't leave as much of an impact as it should. That's my biggest problem with the constant changes. It makes it harder to care about the actual narrative. Again, I'm still a fan, and do enjoy most of these films for what they are. But it's hard to keep essentially having the universe rebooted every couple years. I feel like the older films were better at showing off the characters and getting us invested. The later ones just feel so quiet and restrained. Like so many of the characters just seem more low-key with less personality. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to bitch about my least favorite Potter flick, Half-Blood Prince. While it's not necessarily a bad movie, it is a frustrating adaptation. So going back to Yates, he joined the franchise with Order of the Phoenix. Unpopular opinion, but I actually really like this movie. It's not perfect, and I think it did a huge disservice to both Cho Chang and Sirius Black. But with how much worse the series gets, it's a solid flick. I also like the cinematography. The blue tints they use helped the movie look brighter and more welcoming, which made it feel slightly more connected to the older movies. But it started a pattern of something Yates is frequently guilty of: arbitrary changes. When you're adapting any media to a different format, changes have to be made. It's just a fact. Certain things work in books that just don't work on film. Plus, particularly in a fantasy series like Potter, an author can write whatever they want, paying no mind to logistics. But a movie has to figure out how to show it on screen. And a movie also has to worry about expensive special effects while they're on a budget, where an author doesn't. Why the hell do you think fantasy movies cost so freaking much? Plus, time restraints. Authors can make a book as long as they want because people read books for weeks. But a movie has to be within a reasonable length to be finished in one sitting. And even a series like Potter, which sometimes borders on 3 hours, has to cut stuff out for a somewhat reasonable runtime. Take Goblet of Fire, for example. This is another unpopular movie among fans, but the book is fucking huge, twice the length of its predecessor. While I don't agree with all the changes they made, I do understand a handful of them. They had to cut out everything that wasn't directly related to Harry's journey. Characters like Ludo Bagman and Winky the House Elf didn't really have much of an impact on the grand scheme of things, and the movie is still almost 3 hours long. But I've noticed with Yates, he makes so many changes that just help nothing. Why did Bellatrix use the killing curse on Sirius? They had the whole thing set up with the veil, and they just did it so weird. In the book, oh god, I hate being the person who says that. In the book, Sirius and Bellatrix were dueling and she knocked him into the veil by accident. Him being pushed in essentially sent him to the afterlife, which Harry took a minute to understand. But in the movie, she purposely hit him with the killing curse, and then he kinda survived for a second, and then his body fell into the veil. What? What was the point of any of that? Either make it book accurate or just change it completely. If she was gonna kill him either way, there was really no point in showing the veil. It almost feels like Yates didn't think the audience was smart enough. Another example is in Deathly Hallows when they cut out Wormtail's death. Why the fuck did they cut out Wormtail's death? Not only was it pretty fucking cool, let's be honest, but it was foreshadowed throughout the entire series. In Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry steps in when Wormtail's about to be killed, which unintentionally gives him room to escape. Then in Goblet of Fire, we see Wormtail cut off his hand and Voldemort restore it with a magical hand. These are two major pieces of foreshadowing that were kept in the movies. It eventually culminates in Deathly Hallows when Harry and Ron are escaping from Malfoy Manor. Wormtail is guarding their cell and starts strangling Harry. Harry reminds Wormtail that he saved his life back in Prisoner of Azkaban. Wormtail starts to relent, so his gifted hand turns on him and uncontrollably chokes himself to death. In the movie, however, leaving in all the foreshadowing, mind you, we instead get this. And then we never see him again. Fucking why? There was no reason for this cut. It would have taken 2 minutes to put it on film, and it could have cost them nothing. Some people think that the death was so gruesome it would have risked the movie getting an R rating, but I call bullshit. It could have been done like Snape's death, where we saw little ourselves and mostly watched other characters viewing it. To cut it completely does a huge disservice to the story, and just makes it feel pointless that the character was even in the movies at all. Anyway, these kinds of changes are most prevalent in Half-Blood Prince. I don't call this movie bad necessarily, but it is super frustrating. Most of the problems could have been so easily avoided. Here's some of the little stuff before I get to the big thing. One of them was completely removing the climax from the book to avoid repetition with Deathly Hallows. First of all, the climax in Deathly Hallows is a little bit different and definitely bigger. Second, repetition? You mean a callback, right? Or foreshadowing? Another really annoying thing was the stuff they added. It had been one thing to cut out the climax, and the entire opening, and Dumbledore's funeral, and Lupin and Tonks' entire relationship. But then to add in a pointless scene of Death Eaters attacking the Burrow just added salt to the wound. But worse was Yates did it because he said the movie needed an action scene. You cut out the book's climax! This scene was stupid. I love how Yates also said that he added it for consistency with the franchise's tone. Bitch, since when have you cared about that? There's also some little things that aren't really that big of a deal. There's Luna finding Harry on the train instead of Tonks, the Millennium Bridge being destroyed instead of the Brockdale, but I don't really think they matter. They're arbitrary, sure, but I don't find them worth bitching about. But then, oh boy, we come to the big thing. The thing that in no way needed to happen, but after one too many sips of dumbfuck juice made it past the entire crew. This is when I'll actually talk about J.K. Rowling, but it's not going to be positive. Harry Potter as a series was never perfect. There's tons of plot holes and iffy stuff, but it never really bothered me because in my opinion, the good outweighed the bad. Plus, I tend to like things I can also laugh at, hence my love of Pokemon and Tommy Wiseau. But if I had to pick Rowling's weakest skill as an author, it would definitely be her handling of romance. She does not know how to write it. Reading The Half-Blood Prince will show you that she definitely doesn't know what it's like to be a teenage boy. I love her idealistic portrayal of male sexuality. How Harry saw his libido as this ugly, scaly monster that lived inside of him, and he just wanted to make it go away. This romance cringe never really bothered me that much, because it was only the subplot. The main plot of Half-Blood Prince is setting up everything we need for the finale. This is what made it one of the coolest books in the series, because we literally get all of our answers about Voldemort. We learn why he's immortal, where he came from, who his parents were, everything we've been wondering the entire time, and then some. However, for some reason, a reason I will never, for the rest of my life, fucking understand, they decided to basically make all the Voldemort stuff the subplot, and give much more attention of the movie to the romance. For what purpose, I beg of you? So not only did we have Voldemort's backstory limited to just 2 scenes, but Rowling's weakest skill was given full spotlight. This means about an hour or 2 of this.
Don't you trust me?
Got a bit of toothpaste.
You know, she's got nice skin.
In exchange for all the details about our main villain, wanna know what else is frustrating? If you're somebody who's only seen the movies, not judging, reading is hard, you basically know nothing about Voldemort. Don't believe me? Really take a look at the Voldemort scenes. So we know that he was an orphan, a mean one, and we know that he manipulated Slughorn to teach him about immortality. But how did he become an orphan? Who were his parents? Why does he look like a reptile meth dealer? Why does he hate Muggleborns? Why can't he feel love? How did he rise to power? Why was he afraid of Dumbledore? What was he like as a student? Why did he become a murderer? Just think about all the questions you could have about Voldemort, except ones about sex. There's a different story that answers that. And know that they were all answered in The Half-Blood Prince. And you better believe when I read that book, like a lot of people did, I thought, wow, this is gonna look sick on film. But we didn't get it. Because it was more important to have this.
Hermione's got nice skin. Wouldn't you say? As skin goes, I mean. I've never really thought about it. But I suppose, yeah. Very nice.
There's a few videos out there breaking down Voldemort's backstory, so I'm not gonna do it here. But know that it's fucking crazy. I'm talking inbreeding, patricide, young Voldy being a fucking wizard Ted Bundy. But it's so frustrating because it was the main part of the story, and I will never get why they flip-flopped the focus. I guess they were betting that most people had read the books at this point. Not a completely terrible assumption, but come on. Did they really think it was worth cutting all this shit out so Harry and Ron could talk about Hermione's skin? Imagine if in Prisoner of Azkaban they just made the Quidditch matches the main focus. Or if in Chamber of Secrets they made the whole movie about trying to expose Gilderoy Lockhart. Fuck all that Heir of Slytherin and Sirius Black crap. 2 scenes each. And that's what pisses me off about Half-Blood Prince. Not just that it alienates new and casual viewers, but it does so in exchange for highlighting the worst part of the series. I guess David Yates just really wanted to make a rom-com that year.
But at what cost? At what cost?
Hey guys, thanks a Cinnamon Toast Fuckton for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also want to give a huge thank you to my patrons. If you'd also like to support the channel for as little as $2 a month, link is in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and remember, boys choose Charmander,
but men choose Bulbasaur.
Subscribe to Red Castin. Yes, I did.
You're absolutely sure?
Yes, sir.